What is happening, good people? We are here for Macro Dirt Podcast number 24 with my man JD Lugnuts Dillian. What's up, brother?
What's up, tampon taster?
Oh God. Oh God. Let's go right into number 24. The number 24, JD. Who comes to mind?
I don't know. Who's 24?
Oh my God, we got to go over this. There's some unbelievable. First of all, Kobe, 5 rings. Bryant was number 24.
Okay.
Right? Moses Malone, Rick Barry, Bill Bradley in the NBA, NASCAR behemoth Jeff Gordon wore number 24 on his
That's
car.
right. Yeah, Jeff Gordon. Yeah.
Yeah, if you chat GPT, who are the best NASCAR drivers of all time, he comes up third with Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty.
And Jimmy Johnson, I imagine.
Yeah, he was actually in the number 4th spot, I think,
Yep.
or the 3 spot. I got to remember that. But obviously one of the greatest of all time. Baseball. We could do an entire podcast on this, but we've got Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., Lou Brock, Manny Ramirez, Miguel Cabrera, Barry Bonds. I think you give them a pitcher and a catcher, and
Wow.
they can beat any team in baseball today, right?
Wow.
Yeah, but my number 24 favorite uncontested of all time, Ricky Henderson.
Yes.
Right?
Can I tell you a story about Ricky Henderson?
We're going to tell a couple Ricky Henderson stories. Go ahead.
So, a buddy of mine who works on Wall Street, Ricky Henderson was his favorite player. And I forget who Ricky was playing for, maybe the Mets, maybe the Yankees, but he went to Wrigley to see Ricky Henderson. And he was in the bleachers in Wrigley, and Ricky hit a home run, and he caught the ball.
Get out.
The ball. It was his favorite player, right? And he
Oh
caught
my
the ball.
God.
So he was with a couple, and he says to the wife, he says, "Here, take this ball around to the dugout and get Ricky to sign it." Okay. So she takes the ball all the way around to the dugout, and she kind of leans over and she's like, "Hey, can you get this ball to Ricky Henderson? My friend caught it, wants him to sign it." And Ricky was sitting on the bench in the dugout, and he looks up at her and he's like, "Ricky ain't signing no ball for no white bitch."
Oh my God.
And then he looks at her again and he's like, "Is that a ring on her finger? Ricky ain't signing no ball for no married white bitch."
Oh my God. That's so him, dude. That's so him. There could be a movie about Ricky Henderson, right? Using his lines. I'll never forget when the Yankees signed him. I'm thrilled. I'm in high school, 1985. And a reporter is interviewing him before he ever plays for the Yankees and says, "What do you think about playing on the same field as Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle?" And Ricky goes, "I don't care about them. It's Ricky time." You kidding me? Yeah. You guys, the absolute best. But think about it. He had 1,406 stolen bases.
Yeah.
He had 130 stolen base single season.
Yeah.
Right? When Harold Reynolds won the stolen base title when Ricky Henderson got hurt with 60 stolen bases, do you know Ricky called him up and he goes, "Henderson here." He goes, 60 stolen bases. You ought to be ashamed. Ricky would have had 60 at the break and hung up. But I mean, you can dig into deep baseball almanac type websites and get all the famous Ricky lines. To me, it's a movie script. It's an absolute knockout drop. He played for 10 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest journeyman of all time. Played for the A's 3 times.
Yep.
Played for the Mets, went back and managed for the Mets. I mean, the guy would have taken a paycheck from fucking anybody. But speaking of paycheck, let's get back to what we do to earn a paycheck, JD, and go over the markets. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. I want to start with commodities.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So back in August, we called the bottom in the BCOM, right? Had a big move higher, traded off a bit, kind of forming a base. We currently have a DeMark 12 in the BCOM, which would
on the
be
downside.
On the downside.
Right.
So I think we need to push a little bit lower in commodities, and then I think we'll get the second DeMark 13. We'll have a nice big rounded base, and that's where you're going to get the bull market. So
That's interesting. One of my observations from the month of November's activity was that the dollar index was up like 1% and change, and the BCOM was flat.
Yeah.
Right. So it hung in the face of a really strong dollar. 1.5% is a pretty good month for the dollar. Right.
The thing I've been talking about in the Dirt Nap really for like the last 2 weeks is the sentiment around this U.S. outperformance trade is insane.
Yeah.
Like, and you see it on Twitter. I get it in the replies. Like, everybody's like, the rest of the world is dead. Europe is dead. U.S. forever. Like, if you look at some of these charts, like the U.S. has outperformed the rest of the world by like 70% in the last 10 years. It's
Unbelievable.
insane. So I think the sentiment around that is finally getting to the point where you're going to get a reversal. One of the things I've been talking about, like, Europe needs a Milei. Europe needs a Javier Milei, like a free market revolution in Europe.
Mm.
And I don't know where it's going to come from. That's the problem, right? Like, there's nobody on the horizon that is going to do something like this. So
That's true. That's a good point. I mean, Trump is clearly going to force their hand quite a bit. I mean, he's over in France and Paris today, and he took that visit from Trudeau and said, we'll make you the 51st state, which is pretty unbelievable. And he's got Mexico playing ball, Trudeau playing ball. He's just going to force everybody's hand, I think. And we're going to go back to American dominance like we were under his first administration. But you're a much better political expert and a geopolitical expert than me, so I'm kind of just following your lead here.
Well, Canada's kind of interesting. Trudeau is getting destroyed in the polls. He's one of the reasons he's actually not calling an election is because if he holds out long enough, then all the civil servants will get their pensions, right? So that's one of the reasons he's not calling an election. He's postponing it until it like as long as possible. By the time they have an election, he will have been in power for 9 years, right? And if you see these charts of Canada, like versus the rest of the world, like the point at which Trudeau took office, Canada went sideways and down, and the rest of the world went up.
Dude, it was Klaus Schwab took over the country.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was pretty freaking clear. So, I mean, you're the Canada expert. I don't know how they work their way out of that, but hopefully,
Pierre
Polivar, right?
Pierre is unbelievable. Like,
unbelievable.
He's terrific. So
yeah, he is a conservative Sith. Much like, we're going to get to that in the aftermarket convo, but it's a kind of a mixed thing. Let's stay on the markets here. I want to, where are you on? The bond market has been great for the stock market in the last couple of weeks, right? I think, and a lot of reason why we came in yesterday, carved the new all-time high in the S&P, backing off a little bit today. But, you nailed the kind of bottom of the bond market there. You covered your bond short. We held around the lows of the year. That's reverting to the mean, right? The yield curve is backing way off and reverting to the mean. All of that stuff for the equity market says nothing new in rates markets for us. Bull market go. So that's still, to me, kind of the theme that's playing out. And we still have a ferocious leadership baton handoff going. Like we've literally got cloud storage and broker dealers about to take over semiconductors for leadership on the year.
Wow.
And yeah, really hairy with like financials and utilities and transports right in the wake of them coming around the outside. So I think it's really, really, it's still a bullish cocktail to me. And JJ, who writes on Substack under Alyosha, made a really just an interesting comment about the S&P this morning. He said, the patient bulls are being rewarded, and that was a good way of looking at this, because if you're patient and just sitting and waiting for this to grind to all-time highs and having confidence that it's going to hold on the pullbacks, you're getting paid. So I think that's kind of that's the way I'm looking at the markets right now. Has your view on equities changed? I mean, you might be a little bit empowered with them backing off, but we're still at 60-50.
So a whole bunch of things here. So I got a chart in my inbox this morning of the SPY to TLT ratio, right? And there's like a big channel that goes up over time, and SPY over TLT is at the top of the channel, and it's like multi-standard deviations above the mean.
Mhm.
which means you would think that stocks would sell off and bonds would rally. But this is like a 30-year chart. This isn't like, we're kind of more short term. Like
Yeah.
we focus a month, 2 months, but like this is, a
Yeah.
big long secular chart.
Yeah.
Waller came out yesterday and said he's leaning toward a 25 basis point cut, absent any data, right? So we had jolts today. Jolts were a little bit hotter. Payrolls are on Friday, right? I didn't look up what the number is expected on payrolls. If it comes in a little hot, that's going to make things interesting. I still think the Fed cuts 25 this month no matter what, and then I think they're done. Right, that's my view.
Yeah,
So.
that's a good take on it. That's a good take on it. We are looking for 220,000 non-farm payrolls and 4.1% unemployment this week. This Friday.
Yep.
So we'll see how that plays into it. But I tell you, if the bond market's going to continue to stay in this range, man, it helps me stay bullish the equity market, because I'm still looking for more signs of that Fed policy error where all of a sudden it's inflation creeps in and our commodities trade starts working.
Yep.
Like I'm kind of anticipating that. And so in the absence of that inflation print that I'm looking for, the bond market is range trading and the stock market loves it. That's kind of how I'm looking at this right now.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, just for a short-term view and stuff like that. What do we think of gold? I think it's important to note that, gold stocks were off 5% in November, right? And gold was down a bit, but then gold came roaring back. Gold stocks seem to me, I'm a little bit bearish gold stocks and silver right now, because I think everybody is bag holding in silver, praying that it holds support because silver's supposed to go up because gold is in a gold bull market, right, Jared? Tell me that silver has to go up because gold is in a bull market, Jared. So I think that silver is still really vulnerable here. Do you get a view on that?
I was looking at the gold chart yesterday, and it looks vulnerable. I think we get one more flush in gold. Like basically we had that almost $100 down trade last week when supposedly it was because of the Israel Hezbollah ceasefire. And then they started fighting again this weekend. So you would think that gold would go up, and it's up like it's up like $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it gets one more flush, and then you can start thinking about building a position again. So
let me drop this data point on you. Open interest in gold at the peak was just at 600,000 contracts. Okay. With this little tiny pullback in gold, tell me where you think gold open interest is.
450?
450. All along, or like short-term longs, weak-handed long, all poured out of the boat, right? We are now back already to the bottom of the range in open interest.
Yep.
You know what I mean? With this little cupcake pullback in gold. So it's just, to me, it's ripe for more money to come in, and so like, I don't see it dipping much. Like, I agree, we may get one more because it seems like the dynamic lends itself to that. But man, I mean, this is the one bull market that looks really, really sustainable in kind of the way it does this rocker step back and forth, where all the longs pile in and it makes a new high, and then all the longs pile out and it doesn't really go down. So that's really, really interesting to me. It's another observation that's interesting to me, JD, man. Oil and gas, XOP was up 13% in November. Oil services up 12% in November. Those to me are energy secretary appointment moves. And
how much were the majors up?
Yeah, let's check it out. Exxon up 1% only in November.
Interesting,
right? Chevron up 9%. There's the leader of the pack. Schlumberger, that's the wrong one too. Sorry about that. Schlumberger up 10% on the month.
So Exxon was lagging.
Yeah, Exxon lagged, but you know what? Exxon had been a leader, right?
Yeah.
There was a secondary in Exxon that knocked the thing down. Then it came roaring back. There's all kinds of dynamics underneath the hood in Exxon itself, but that stock looks great. The stock looks great. Thoughts on that? Are we going to have a little energy renaissance here? Like, I'm still trying to figure out what the Trump appointment means, but I'm having a lot of respect for the fact that those two sectors were up double-digit percentages while the S&P was up a couple percent in November.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think the stocks were up because of politics, like you said. I
Yeah.
still can't get super excited about the WTI chart. You know what I mean? Like it's
Me
stuck in the
neither.
mud.
Me
So
neither. But do me a favor, take a look at the XOP chart when we get off of this, because I'm going to throw that up in. Braden's going to throw that up for us, and I love the head and shoulders bottom below the moving averages and recovery above the moving averages, and that's something that I can't ignore when it lines up with a performance siren that just went off for me.
yep.
So I think that that's something that I want to keep an eye on when the guy appoints like one of the most awesome energy secretaries that you can think of for the job right now. So I think that's relevant. What have we touched on the entire market conversation? I don't want to leave anything out, JD. I like to be thorough about this. Is there any single stocks that we should be talking about? Anything jumping out at you lately?
Um,
You know what's jumping out at me? Walmart going to the moon.
Walmart's going up.
Walmart. Walmart doubled this year.
I haven't pulled up a chart of Walmart in years.
It went from 50 to 90 in 2024. How you doing?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is like, this goes along with the
Are they
retail.
doing a buyback?
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
I'm not the best single stock trader in the world, but this is one that I've noticed that is jumping out of the gym. I got a feeling that, I don't really know what I know. I don't really know what I think about it. I can't even articulate it well. So they're just things like that. While retail is also breaking out of a 2-year consolidation pattern, that stuff has my attention.
Have we gotten the Black Friday numbers yet? Like, how
No,
much we spent on Black Friday?
I don't think so, but I haven't been glued to the tape since last night. So
Yeah.
something may have come out, but no. And I would imagine that, man, like the channel checks on the economy are still absurd. Like if you're looking for tickets for anything, like I took my son to a Ranger game when he was home over Thanksgiving. And I mean, there are no tickets. You know what I mean? Like to go to a Ranger game on a random Thursday or Friday or whatever, you're spending $500 to get in the arena. And so I know that we're in the center of the universe here in New York, but that's not like bearish the economy.
Man,
Restaurants are
I mean,
packed.
I'm flying up to New York tomorrow. I was looking at hotels. They're all like $800-900 a night. Like even like the sort of the middle brow ones are just ridiculous. I'm actually staying at the Pod for $450 a night. A twin bed in the Pod for $450 a night. That was the
And you
cheapest I could find.
and you can touch two walls at the same
Yeah.
time in the pod, right? Yeah, that's fucked up that they get $400 a night, man. But yeah, that's why maybe it's part inflation, maybe it's part the economy, but I don't get any signs that the economy's rolling over when I see things like that. Speaking, I think it's the perfect time to get off the markets, JD. How was Thanksgiving in your new chateau?
Oh, it was amazing. It
Yeah,
was
tell me about
amazing.
it a little bit. Carolyn cooked?
She did. Best turkey I ever had. I
Nice.
mean, best turkey I ever had. We had stuffing, and my mom brought her famous sausage stuffing, and we had mashed potatoes and peas, and it was. I've been pretty good about not pigging out on Thanksgiving. I ate so much, my stomach hurt for like 4 hours. I was in pain. I was like, oh,
You look heavier. You still look bloated.
yeah,
That's awesome. We had a great one too. The highlight of ours was my sister laid out we're big on, apps and hors d'oeuvres in an Italian family. And rather than having all of these big, beautiful serving dishes and plates and everything like that, she laid out a white sheet for what do you call it? A tablescape, laid out a white piece of paper, put all of the appetizers out on it with decorations and labeled them, and had everybody grabs a plate and you walk around and grab whatever you want. And then the awesome part, when you're done with the cocktail hour, wrap the whole thing up, throw it out. There's no plates to wash. Right.
yeah.
So that was the semi-brilliant thing that my darling sister pulled off for Thanksgiving for us, and it was amazing. We have to touch on, JD, we have to touch on this. We have to touch on one thing that's off markets that's not as fun as Thanksgiving real quick. Kash Patel appointed to the head of the FBI. Right.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this last night. I don't really know who this guy is. Apparently, he's got a good CV, but he's like I don't know,
He
like he's very much against the deep state, or I don't know the whole
Well,
story.
yeah, he's first of all, his resume speaks for itself. He's a former DOJ prosecutor. He was chief of staff to the Secretary of Defense. He's on the National Security. He was on Trump's National Security Council. He was a senior advisor to the Director of National Intelligence. Right, but he said in an interview with Glenn Beck, I think it was, that he would shut down the FBI, close the Herbert Hoover building on day one, and make it a museum to the deep state. Right. So this guy, like, is another guy like Hegseth, like RFK Jr., like the energy secretary, Chris Wright, like Scott Bessent. Everybody's got an agenda here. So all I could say is that if I'm Kash Patel, I've got like 3 Navy SEAL teams guarding my body until Trump gets inaugurated, because I don't think they're going down without a fight. But we'll see. You wanted to do a book review, JD. What book did you want to review today?
I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck
Oh, that
by
sounds great.
by Mark Manson.
Tell me what that's like.
So this book has sold like 10 million copies, just massive runaway bestseller. And I was interested in it, number one, because it's a bestseller, and number two, because I kind of would like to not give a fuck. Like that sounds fun.
Yeah.
The book is actually not about that. What it really is like it borrows from Viktor Frankl, it borrows from Stoicism, it borrows from Christianity, it borrows from a lot of things. And it's just sort of like a condensed guide on how to live your life in a happy way, right? And Mark Manson is, I mean, nothing against Mark Manson, but he's kind of a shitbird. Like, growing up, he was like a pothead. He played video games. Like, he went to Europe. He banged a bunch of women. Like, he really had like no direction in life. And then he started a blog and he started writing about this stuff, and he got a huge following, and then he got the book deal. So he's a young guy. He's a millennial. I'd say he's in his 30s, and it kind of shows in his writing. It's worth a read.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really anything new there. The genius of the book is the organization of the material and the packaging, the title and the marketing. Like that's the genius of the book, that you take thousands of years of accumulated wisdom and you put them in a 200-page book that anybody can understand. That's the genius of the book. So I didn't really learn anything new, but it was a good read. So.
Can you give me something that he recommends to not give a fuck? Like what's some of the guidance, or how does it sound, or how does he posture himself towards you?
Well, kind of like he talks about like really, he talks about his relationship with his brother, right? And he says, my brother doesn't return my texts or my calls, right? So he says the standards by which I judge the relationship with my brother is that he doesn't return my texts or my calls, so we have a terrible relationship. But if you kind of zoom out, and he says, if you look at this from 35,000 feet, we love each other, we have mutual respect, we have a great relationship, and it doesn't really matter that he doesn't return my texts. So a lot of it is about perspective.
That's interesting. Yeah. I love that. And I have to mention this now, since we did one book review and you just mentioned brothers. I've got to throw in another book review, if that's okay. Because I just listened to Alex Van Halen's book called Brothers, about him, and it's his autobiography, but it's so much about him and Eddie Van Halen, who is like my biggest guitar hero of all time. And it is so touching and so unbelievably done. Like it's so well done that like the book should have been twice as long. It's like one of those where he goes into a lot of inside stories, and you realize the relationship that they had. I mean, they were they were like attached at the hip from birth. And it's really just interesting to hear a guy's perspective on someone that's regarded possibly like one of the greatest guitar players that ever lived, being his brother, and all of the fucking bumps and bruises that he had. Like, I mean, he basically, outed his brother. His brother like lit one cigarette with the butt end of the last one and drank and played guitar. And that was it. And you're just like, holy shit, man, that's really heavy stuff. But it was a great book. If you're a Van Halen fan, it's kind of a must listen. And now, JD, we are coming into 'tis the season. We just busted through Thanksgiving, which was amazing. And we've got, what is one of my favorite, probably my favorite time of year, maybe yours too, Christmas in New York, or just Christmas season. But Christmas in New York in general is really special. What rings to mind when I say that?
I mean, the tree in Rockefeller Center for sure, which is a shit show. When they put the tree up, like Rockefeller Center, it's wall to wall people. You can't. I mean, it's madness.
It's
It's
dick to
madness.
ass. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's completely crazy. What I like to do is go to Del Frisco's Grill right on the corner of Rockefeller Plaza there and have a couple of Johnny Walker Black on the rocks and then go out and check out the tree, and the crowd doesn't bother you as much and you're a little bit warmer. But some of the other things that I like to do around New York City, I mean, I literally I love going to big lunches with my friends, like at places like Fasano and the Grill and, places like that. I love going to the Bryant Park ice rink and craft fair. If you can walk around there without a smile on your face, I don't know how you do it. You know what I mean? Like, it is New York in all of its beautiful majesty. It's decked out. There's arts and crafts and food everywhere. And it's just a really great place to spend a little bit of time of the season.
I got to tell you, I mean, Christmas in general has become less of my favorite holiday. Thanksgiving I like better. Christmas, I don't have kids, right?
I was just gonna say, there it is.
Yeah. I mean, I got a bunch of cats. I don't have kids. And we're at the point, I said this to my wife. I'm like, I do not want any Christmas presents. I don't want any. I have everything I could possibly want. Like if you get me like a gift certificate to the movie theater, like it doesn't, like I don't care, like it doesn't change my life. So we're not putting up a tree. We're not putting up any decorations.
Are you pagans?
Yeah, no, we're not pagans.
I'm just teasing.
But actually, Christmas is my time to work, right? Because I take like 1 or 2 weeks off the newsletter. I sit on the couch. I write a book. Like during Christmas break, I'll work like 12 hours a day on the couch writing a book. Like that's what I do over Christmas.
Oh my God. All right. So mine is the opposite. Like, just to touch on the Christmas tradition, when you have little kids, Christmas is a blur, right? It's like getting a tree, getting a Christmas morning ready for 3 kids under the age of 10 when you've been brought up with Christmas morning being the biggest day of the year is a Herculean effort. From the decorating of the house to the wrapping to the hiding the presents, wrapping them, getting them out in the middle of the night. I mean, I've been in situations at 1:30 in the morning putting together doll houses, and so that's a tough way to spend Christmas. But now that my kids are older, they're all college age, and now it's a really easy thing. You can talk about what everybody wants. Nobody has to get a big giant pile under the tree. Just they ask for what they want. We get them what we get them, and then we have an amazing Christmas day. And then for me, like, be quite honest with you, I prefer to recharge over Christmas because there's so much social obligation. Like every other day, there's something going on. And then the last 4 days of the year, I go see fish every night at the garden and cleanse my soul and not look at markets and then come back. Then I wake up on the first day of January raring to go.
Is Fish playing this year?
Oh, yeah. 4 shows in a row.
Yep.
It's going to be another banger like it always is. So I can't wait for that. And so that's it, JD. We went through markets, Ricky Henderson, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and that brings us to the end of Macro Dirt number 24. Hasta la vagina, good people.
Hasta la vagina.